And we're recording now. Welcome to the September meeting of Tucson Macintosh User Group. I'd like to welcome everybody who's here. Are there any first-time visitors here at this time? I don't think so. I think I recognize every name on the board here. Okay. Let's see. We will have free raffle tickets coming up, and we will have a raffle or a door prize at the end of this meeting, and more about that in a moment. Welcome to the autumnal equinox edition of the TMUG meeting. Our next meeting is on Tuesday, October 18, at this same virtual location. In October, as usual, we'll have Ask Me Anything hosted by Kevin. And in October, we will hold our annual Geek Gift Guide, and your suggestions are most welcome. If you have anything that you found that's a nice geeky gift that you'd like to give somebody or you'd like to receive, please let me know about it. If you can email me with the name of the item and hopefully like a Amazon link to it, that would be great. And we will call you out at the meeting and let you know that you suggested this wonderful thing.
Does it have to be geeky?
They have to be. I'd leave that up to your discretion. If you tell me that you can get a Cabbage Patch Kid, probably not, unless the Cabbage Patch Kid can talk and dance. That would qualify as geeky. Tonight, the names of the attendees are collated into a numbered list and be used to pick a winner of a 2 terabyte USB drive suitable for backups and other storage. And that's because one of our presentation tonight is how to test your backups to make sure they are working. And we're all backing up, right? At least one way and hopefully 3 ways. Okay. Of course, I can't see Susan raising her hand because she doesn't have a camera. Same thing for Diana and Alex. But we'll take that as consent that you are backing up. Last month's winner was Luis. I don't think Luis is here tonight, at least not yet. Congratulations. There is a little gotcha on this 2 terabyte USB drive suitable for backups, and that is it's located at Ridge's house. So if you win it, you need to go get it. And coordinate with the guy with the Air Force behind him over there. Well, one of the guys with the Air Force behind him. Denny also has the Air Force behind him. And the super raffle tickets will be filled out by Kurt and put into the barrel for our March 2023 pick. Is there anybody here who is not subscribed to the TMUG mailing list at groups.io? Anybody here who's a member and is not subscribed? Okay, and I'm not going to go into it any further. TMUG is currently suggesting that our members wait to install iOS 16 on their phones. But to help you understand the new system, you can download the iPhone user guide in the Apple Books app. Look for one that's I searched for iOS 16 and it found it and put it at the top of the list. It says iPhone user guide and it says iOS 16 in really small type at the bottom of the cover. It's a free download. It's from Apple, and it is 843 pages for that light reading while you're out in the sun. Are there any other announcements? Anything that I forgot? Then is there any for sale or wanted to buy items from the floor? Again, I have a Wacom tablet, free to a good home. It works well, but the driver requires Mountain Lion or earlier. So if you have an older Mac and you'd like to try a Wacom tablet, we can make that happen. Okay, if again, if there are no other announcements, stuff that I forgot, we're going to move on to Apple News and Security Update with Ridge. Ridge, go ahead and take it away.
Okay,
And I would ask that everybody mute their microphone except for those who are speaking or presenting.
okay, I have to be allowed to share my screen.
You are.
Ridge, do you have Keynote running and your presentation started in a window?
Okay. Oh. That's not working good either.
Well, while Ridge is working through that issue, I have a spam security story to share. And that is, I don't know, a week ago or so, I got an email from Bob Wood. And here I'm looking at it in the window in mail. And it says Bob Wood. Oh, okay. Well, I click on it. Well, it was spam. Since then, I've been getting more and more emails from me to me, like up to 10 or 12 a day. Some of them get caught automatically in the spam filter, and some seem not to get caught in the spam filter. So if you start receiving an email from yourself, don't do what I do. Don't click on it. Put it in the spam folder in the junk file. Ridge, are you having any luck there?
We'll try it again.
Go ahead.
I hope
There you
there
go.
it is.
There you go. Go ahead and press play and roll along.
Okie doke, here we go. There. For September, let's see what we have. We have some software updates. Of course, 1Password, if you're using it's got updated, and then Adobe had their updates as well. BB Edit, if you use that, it was updated, and BusyCal, if you were using that, Carbon Copy Cloner, and the Firefox for the Mac and iOS had many updates. And you can see that's a through number. So there's 4 or 5 updates in each one of those. And then Google Chrome got updated as well with many updates. Same way for Chrome for iOS, it got many updates as well. And Keyboard Maestro, if you use that, came up with an update, and Office for the Mac on those various releases of the Office program, their updates are now to 16.65, and Mozilla updated Thunderbird as well, and Pixelmator Pro. And Zoom now is 5, what is it, 11.11? Okay, so it would start out with 5.11.6, and through the month it got updated several times. And Apple was in the business of updating as well. Monterey came out with 2 updates, and according to one of the websites that tracks this kind of stuff, there were over 50 security updates in those Monterey updates. And Big Sur also got an update from 11.6 to 11.7. Safari has been updated for Big Sur and for Catalina, and the standalone Safari is updated as well. And iOS, one of the older versions of iOS got updated, and the iOS iPad software got updated several times from 15.7 to 16.0.1. And the GarageBand has been updated for iOS and iPad if you're running 16.0 or greater. HomePod software was updated. The Watch OS got updated and two times. And the TV OS is updated, and Xcode 14 came out. Now in beta, we've got Ventura, which is maybe going to be around the corner sometime in October. And iOS and iPad, all the old and tvOS are all going to be coming out with the 16.1 versions. The Watch is going to be updated, and so is Xcode coming out with updates. Now, as far as customer satisfaction across the people who buy personal computers, Apple was surveyed, and they wound up being having the most people satisfied with those computers they bought, as you can see from the chart. The 13-inch MacBook Pro comes out in 2 versions, the M1 equipped and M2 equipped. And they were tested, the entry-level ones. The one that came out this year and the one that came out last year with only 256 gigabytes of storage. And they found that the M1 equipped model was faster than the recently released the M2 equipped model. And that had to do with the fact that the storage chips on the M1 model for 256 gigabytes had 2 128 gigabyte RAM chips, and the M2 version MacBook Pro 13-inch had 1 chip, 256 chip. And so the two chips were faster access to everything. There's if you buy a 2022 model, the suggestion from the internet folks is to get a model that has a larger amount of storage on it than 256. So 512 is probably the best, lowest entry level M2 equipped 13-incher. Now, Apple Maintenance is that their self-service repair program has been expanded to Mac notebooks as of August 23rd. And the ones that are included are the MacBook Air and MacBook Pro models in the M1 family. And so if you're wanting to do your own fix, you're able to buy tools and parts from Apple's self-service repair store and examine the manuals in the manual section of the support site. And Apple says that more models will be included in that program later this year. And if you had an issues of no sound with your iPhone 12 and the 12 Pro, Apple has extended their free repair program from 2 years now to 3 years after the unit's first retail sale. And there are online reports of high-pitched buzzing noises coming from and affecting the $1,600 Apple Studio display. And Apple hasn't had a fix for that yet. And Apple is investigating a bug that may cause iPhone 14 Pros and 14 Pro Max models to freeze after customers are transferring their data from an older iPhone. So they're investigating that and probably will issue a fix sometime soon. And they also say they're going to update iOS 16 very soon to fix a problem they found that causes iPhone 14 Pro cameras to shake when you're using a third-party camera app. USB news. And the foundation that runs the USB specification has announced a new spec is coming called USB 4, and it'll allow 80 gigabits per second data transfer speed, and it's going to use the same USB type connector, but it's going to be difficult for us to tell which cables are capable of the new specification because logos have been proposed, but not every supplier is using them to differentiate between all of these varieties of USB. And there are about 60 different combinations of USB-C cables when considering the speed, Thunderbolt versus USB active and passive and charging capability, which doesn't even include the variants that are going to pop up as a result of the USB 4 version 2. So far, what they've got is this chart that providers of cables are being urged to adopt and place on their versions of the USB cables. But so far, not a lot of folks are doing that. Now, as far as the Mac operating system capability, if you're running Monterey, which is Mac OS 12, or if you're running Mac OS 13 Ventura, these are the machines that are compatible with them. The Mac Mini in Monterey, if you had the fall of 2014 Mac Mini, that and a Mini that came later than that will be okay with Monterey. And I'll let you look at this, and you can find the machines you have, and you'll see which operating system you'll be able to use. And of course, Ventura is requiring newer Mac products. And both Bob and I have Mac Studios, so we can run all of this stuff, even if we, not that we want to, but And here's a rumor mill for this month. And there's still words that people think that there's a 15-inch MacBook Air coming next year with an M2 chip in it, and maybe a new 12-inch laptop, which the last one was from 2017, a 12-inch MacBook. And also they're thinking that the 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros and Mac Minis with M2 chips inside, made with a 5-nanometer manufacturer process, are going to be released sometime later this year. And the next event people are predicting will happen next month. And they're thinking that some new products are going to be announced, like M2 equipped 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros. We'll have to see on that. We never know about these things until they actually happen. And for nostalgia this month, there was an Apple One prototype board that was hand soldered by Steve Wozniak and said to have been personally owned by Steve Jobs And that has been sold at auction for over $677,000 in August to somebody in the San Francisco Bay Area. And they did the research on that particular board, and the Providence confirmed that it was Steve Jobs as its owner. And here's what it looked like. Wow. And the right on that little aluminum plate, it says prototype, hand soldered by Steve Wozniak in 1976. And of course, we're going to still have our iron on or so on logos, cloth logos, or pins. At our next face-to-face meeting, we'll have them available for you, and everybody who shows up and is a member will get a free pin on them. So thanks so far for your attention. And now we'll turn to what's of interest for security this month. And of course, we got software updates that had security fixes in them: Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, and InCopy from Adobe. And Google had a bunch of fixes. For Chrome, and Mozilla updated Firefox as well, and Thunderbird. Then Microsoft had security updates in their Office for Mac update. And Apple's fixes were in Big Sur, Monterey, and iOS and iPad OS. And Safari 15.6.1 for and 16 for Big Sur and Catalina. All these were updates, security fixes. And as far as cybercrime goes, the Plex video streaming service was hacked, and they asked their users to change their passwords. Plex is a service that lets you stream video from your Mac to any other device, creating your own personal streaming service. But now they say they discovered suspicious activity on one of their databases. And in an email they sent to everybody, they said they're requiring all Plex accounts to have their passwords reset. But they later modified that wording to say that they want to kindly request you to reset your Plex account password immediately. But also in that email, they said, rest assured, your credit card and other payment data are not stored on our services at all, and we're not vulnerable in this incident. They also said they addressed the method that this third party employed to gain access, and they're doing additional work to ensure the security of all their systems is further hardened. Fortunately, they published a step-by-step guide to resetting the password on their service. And that's about it I have for the security part of my briefing. And of course, the final word is stay safe. And I think, does Bob still have something to say about the number of emails he gets to his name?
No,
That's all. That's all for me.
Rich. Thank you, Rich. I did talk about that while you were having an incident with your keynote, but I do have something else that I forgot to mention in the announcements, and that is we're going to be holding a TMUG photo walk, and it'll take place on Saturday, October 15th. It will be held in the old part of Tucson, south of the convention center. There's no cost for this event, but you will need to register, as we're planning to gather at El Minuto Cafe for a beverage and/or lunch, along with photo sharing and experience sharing during the walk. So if anybody is interested in joining us, please send me an email and let me know. I know that we have Roger, Kurt, Melissa signed up, and I think Doriana is interested. And if there's anybody else who's interested in joining us, a photo walk is a gathering of people who like to take photos, and they all kind of walk around in a geographical area, and then afterward they meet and discuss what they have seen and share it with the others. So we would be happy to have you join us. But again, I need you to register because I need to know how much of a table or whatever to try and reserve at El Minuto Cafe, which is on, I think it's Main Street. It's just south of the convention center, and further details will follow. So now I'm going to, has anybody got a question about the photo walk? Mark?
Where was your new background picture taken?
Oh, this one was taken on a, thank you. This one was taken on a photo walk down in this area. It is a adobe building with a lot of different little houses in there. Every time you see a light over the doorway, that's a different doorway and a different home. And then I made it look like it was a watercolor. And this one is currently hanging, a print of this is currently hanging in the Tucson International Airport. The Tucson Airport has asks for submissions of artwork to be hung for a temporary amount of time, and I have 9 images, 9 prints up there, and they'll be there until just after New Year's. So if you would like to join us at our photo walk, we would be most happy to have you join us. But let me know if you're coming. So if there's nothing else, I'm going to turn it over to Tony, who's going to give us a recap of the Apple Far Out event, which took place on September 7.
Could I just say something?
Sure.
There's a few people that actually give a lecture, walk and talk in that area. If you take pictures, you might want to find out if there is a walk in the area you went, because the history is like every inch. It's very interesting and very complex. So to
Okay,
give meaning to your picture.
I'll try to look up tours of the history of Old Tucson and see if Old Town Tucson, and see if I can get any response on that. Thank you, Doriana. And it looks like Far Out, dude, that Tony is ready. So take it away, Tony.
Okay, so the Apple event was on September 7th. This is a link. I will I will post this in the groups.io so that you can find it, and that's the YouTube link to go to the video if you want to watch it yourself. So I'm going to give a summary here. This is all the stuff Apple announced. Lots of new stuff on watches, AirPods, new AirPods Pro, and new phones. So I am expecting another event sometime in early October. Haven't heard anything official about that, but probably October or November, not sure yet. So there's an Apple Watch Series 8, the Apple Watch SE, and the new Apple Watch Ultra, AirPods Pro, then the iPhone 14, and then the iPhone 14 Pro. And then I'll go through the details on these. This was just to give you an idea, preview up front, everything that they announced. So the Apple Watch Series 8, it's the same size as the Series 7, essentially. So they'll say it's a 41 and 45 millimeter. It has a new temperature sensor, and it's kind of a cool temperature sensor because it has a skin temperature sensor and a air temperature sensor so that it can detect the differences in the environment. So if you're standing outside in the sun, or if you're in a hot room, it will know that and keep track of your actual temperature. They really talked for about 5 minutes about menstrual cycle tracking. And now with this new sensor, they can do an estimate of when someone ovulated. And that is based on the temperature sensor and some other items that they use. It comes in 4 colors in the aluminum version: midnight, starlight, silver, and the product red. And then if you go to the stainless steel version, it's gold, graphite, silver, and space black. The big new feature that they announced here was crash detection. So they have a new gyroscope and accelerometer. So similar to what you have in your car that deploys the airbags, they have a sensor that can detect a high G acceleration, which is indicative of a car crash. And they showed them testing it. It can detect front crashes, side crashes, rear end collisions, and rollovers. And it's similar to the fall detection. It gives you 10 seconds to cancel. You can, or it will call contact emergency services. Another new feature they announced is a very low power mode, and this will now support up to 36 hours with the watch. It does disable some of the higher power features. And the first one they said was the display will not be always on. And the second one, it will not automatically detect new workout types. So if you can tell it a workout type, but it won't be trying to detect what workout you're doing. This new mode is actually available with Series 4 and later Apple Watches. This is very useful if you're going to go on a long flight or you're going to be away for a long period of time. You can put your device in low power mode earlier and sustain it for a longer period. The cellular capability is now going to include international roaming, and this is in Series 5 through 8. And so it's $399 for GPS and $499 for the GPS plus cellular. So this is kind of an incremental improvement, added a new sensor for over the Series 7. They also announced a new Apple Watch SE. This is now coming in silver, midnight, and starlight. And they now have a matching back case. So the entire case is all the same color. And it has a larger display than the previous SE. It's pretty close in size to the smaller version, I believe, of the Watch Series 8. And it does have the new S8 processor. So they really upgraded this. So it's the same as the current generation. So when you're thinking about this, now buying a Watch SE is not buying something with a 4 or 5 year old processor that's not going to be supported as long. And since they use the S8 processor, it is going to have crash detection. It does not have the advanced temperature sensor in here. And it's $249 for the GPS version and $299 with GPS plus cellular. Okay, then they spent a large amount of time talking about the Apple Watch Ultra. And this is the replacement for what they called the Apple Watch Edition. It is a titanium case. It has a sapphire glass flat cover. You can see that case, the titanium goes up around the edges of the glass. And so this is designed as a rugged case. It's a 49 millimeter watch, so it's 4 millimeters larger than the larger of the Series 8 ones. And you can see on the bottom picture, they have added this new button on the other side, and they call it the action button. And you can kind of see that the crown and the button on the other side are just a little bit bigger and chunkier. All of these things are designed for use while wearing gloves, so it's easy to get the action button to operate. It has a 36-hour battery life. If you use that low power mode, it goes up to almost 60 hours. They talked about, ultra marathoners or people doing triathlons being able to use this for those events. They added a new face called Wayfinder, and there is a new night mode, so you can scroll the crown and it will switch the display to being red so that it doesn't ruin your night vision. Other impressive features, they added a new GPS version. There's multiple frequencies that GPS uses, and so they added one of the newer frequencies called L5, and that supports GPS acquisition in dense urban environments or in mountain canyons. It has different characteristics than L1, so it makes it a little bit easier for the watch to actually maintain and find GPS. This new watch supports temperature operating ranges of -20 to 55. For those of us who use English units, that's -4 degrees Fahrenheit to 130 Fahrenheit. So it will still not operate inside your car on a sunny day if you're don't have the air conditioning on. They also added a new feature that if you are off-road, you can add waypoints and it will keep track of where you have been traveling and allow you, it uses GPS to keep track of where you are, and it will let you backtrack to places you previously were. So you can activate a backtrack function and it will show you your GPS route that you were on, and you can then follow that back to wherever you started from. They on the side of the watch, they added a very loud speaker. So this is 86 decibels. That's pretty loud. You can hear it outside. They said between 600 and 1200 feet away, depending on the air conditions and trees or other impediments. So that, and it has a distinctive siren sound so that people can locate where you are. Also, interestingly enough, this is now certified as a scuba dive computer down to 40 meters or 130 feet for recreational diving. And that is with an app from a company that does that, but it automatically has a depth mode that engages when you go underwater. But there is a full dive computer app and it'll recommend, stopping points. So it's actually fully qualified as a dive computer, just having this on your wrist. There are 3 new types of bands, and I think I have pictures of those in here, but I will show them. And this is now it's $7.99. They all have GPS plus cellular. And so that is the Apple Watch Ultra. The next thing that came out was AirPods Pro. So this is a 2nd generation AirPods Pro. It has a new audio processor. They have a new feature for spatial audio where you use your iPhone camera, the true depth camera on your iPhone, and it measures your specific head and ear, and then it personalizes the spatial audio so it sounds the same to you as it would in a real system. So they actually take measurements of your head to personalize how the audio sounds. The active noise cancellation is improved. They said 2x noise cancellation. I'm assuming, so that just means that it's 3 dB if you're thinking audio perspective. They added a new extra small ear tip so that more people can wear this. The active transparency mode has now added a noise cancellation feature for construction sounds so that it suppresses like a jackhammer or other loud noises that are near you, but you still hear them, but they're suppressed. The previous versions of AirPods had tap control. These now have a touch. So there's actually a little slide that you can do. So you can control the volume by touching and then sliding your finger up and down. They updated the listening time to 6 hours on a charge, and it's 30 hours now with the case. And you can charge the charging case now has a small speaker, which is helpful if you're using Find My Device and you've lost it. It actually has a speaker to play a sound so you can find the case. And it supports a lightning charging like your phone does currently, but it also supports key charging. And if you have an Apple Watch charger, you can charge the AirPods Pro case with your Apple Watch charger. So if you're traveling, you can put the case on there and use the same charger you would use for your watch. These are $249, and so that's the AirPods Pro 2nd generation. Okay, now new iPhones. So last year they had the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 13 mini. This year they went the other way. They have an iPhone 14 and an iPhone 14 Plus. So this is a 6.1 and 6.7 inch display. It comes in a blue, purple, midnight, starlight, and red. It has the Super Retina XDR display. It does not have the ProMotion that the Pro phones have. They just claimed all-day battery life. It does have the A15 Bionic, but it has the version that was in the 13 Pro. It has the 5 graphics unit version, as opposed to the one that was in the iPhone 13, which was a 4 graphics unit version. It is a new processor. It's just very similar. It has a new camera. The main camera is 12 megapixels and they are larger pixels. I think they said it's a 1.9 micron pixel, which is a little bit bigger. The front display now has autofocus at multiple ranges for the front camera. And they have a new video mode called Action Mode, and that stabilizes video using the gyroscope in the phone to determine how it's moving. And it oversamples the picture and then it stabilizes it to the right 4K or full HD format. They eliminated one more slot in the phone. So now the only things left are the cable and the speaker outputs and the button on the side. So they eliminated the SIM tray. So you will have to use an eSIM if you switch to an iPhone 14. However, it does support multiple eSIMs. I haven't heard a limit on that, but it does say it is multiple. The new processor, the A15 in here, includes that new gyroscope that the watch had. And so your phone can also do crash detection. The last feature that they announced for the new iPhone 14 is this emergency SOS via satellite. And so this is if you're in a situation where you need to get emergency services, but you're outside of cell coverage, they have coordinated with a satellite company and they have figured out how to add an antenna here. And you have to, it shows you there on the screen to the right, you can see how to point your phone towards the satellite so that you have a connection. And they definitely demonstrated this and showed how this would work. They did say this is a service and it is going to be free for 2 years. We will see what the cost is in the future. So here's the example. So what they're saying for the emergency, says emergency SOS via satellite. You want to be outside. You know, it's not instantaneous. It will take a little bit of time. And so what they've done is they've figured out what the kind of standard questions that get asked in an emergency and like the type of emergency, where are you, how are you located? And so they have they worked with SOS providers, the emergency medical services and rescue providers, to get the questions that are normally asked. And so you can quickly answer these questions and then it can compress that really small and send that really quickly. So there's not a lot of back and forth time trying to go through a satellite to get this information out. So these are some examples of what type of emergency: vehicle, sickness, crime, you're lost, or there's a fire. And then it asks, is there steep terrain, water, are you in a cave, or none of those apply? So it kind of has this series of questions that it asks you to help the emergency services have the right equipment and they make sure they send the right people to help you. And you can see up in the top, it shows the little satellite. So that's showing that it's trying to connect to the satellite. It looks like I left that in there twice. Okay, so after that, now the new 14 Pro. So they added a smaller space. You can see here, there's a little, it's not a notch, it's now a little pill. Some Android phones have had this little pill for a few years now. They upped the brightness on the screen. It is about 60% brighter than the previous screen, and they do have an outdoor mode that makes it double the brightness of the previous screen. So you'll be able to see things in the outdoors. The new colors, so they have a deep purple, and I think this one is the deep purple, gold, silver, and space black. They now have an always on display, and the new A16 processor, which they worked really hard on lower power. They added a new graphics engine to support the always on display, and they added a bunch of features for better camera performance. So overall, much better low light performance than even the 13 Pro. They updated the main camera to be 48 megapixels from 12. And what it is they have 4 pixels per normal pixel, allows it to reduce noise and do some other items like this next function, which is they added a 2x telephoto, and that uses the middle 12 megapixels of the main camera to essentially create another virtual lens for telephoto. The ultra wide is also now has better macro photography, and the flash is now a 9 LED array that allows them to do better flash for the specific distance and range and type of lens that you are using. Okay, so here's some examples of what the dynamic island looks like. So you can see if someone calls you, it just now expands the island out. It shows you there who's calling. You know, you can answer or hang up right away. They kind of showed, connecting, playing music, and it kind of expands this. This is kind of like the mini player that's on the Mac. It's now a way to do the mini player. This can actually go very down really far and just be something like this one on the right here, which is showing your AirPods connected and the battery. That was like right when they connected, it did that. In the second row here, this one on the left, that's showing direction finding. And that's showing you have a right turn coming up in 0.3 miles. And so the rest of the screen is still doing whatever you had. This is now showing a FaceTime audio with a person and getting the controls for the FaceTime audio to, mute your mic or turn the camera on or share your screen, change the audio to speakerphone. So there's a lot of little things that get done by using this dynamic island. It's now the place that things go, but leaves the rest of the screen available for the apps that are using it. This one in the middle bottom, this is showing the directions. Hey, there's 4 lanes here. You want to buy in the right lane and you want to turn right, and it says in 90 feet. Probably a little bit too late already if you're not in the right lane. And then this is also showing now how the Face ID works. So this is saying that it recognized your face and that it was ready to allow you access to the phone. So that's the example. So I think this is the new feature. So there was a pill. There's now, instead of the notch, there is a little pill area, and that pill area expands and becomes part of the display of showing you what's going on. And the reason there's never anything in the middle of this, right in the middle top, is because that's where all the sensors are that you previously had in the notch. So now prices. Other than the fact that there is no 14 mini, which was $100 on the cheaper side of this curve. The prices for the 14 are the same as the prices that were for the 13. The 14 Pro and the 14 Pro Max are the same prices of 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max. And then the 14 Plus is in the middle, in between the 14 and the 14 Pro. But that does have the larger 6.7-inch display, similar to the Pro Max. Are there any questions on what Apple presented?
I think you did a great job, Tony. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony.
Now, I have another announcement before I turn it over to Roger. Or a question. So did anybody here order anything that was announced this month? We know that Chris Wesselman did. He ordered a iPhone 14 Pro Max. And if you and Melissa come to the photo walk, keep your eye on Melissa because she's a real purple kind of person and she might want to lift the phone out of your pocket.
You got me pegged.
David Acklam looks like he's got a watch on there. It seemed like the watch Ultra was really expensive, but when you consider what it is and what it's up against, the price of a Apple Watch 8 in the larger screen size and in the stainless steel case is exactly the same as the Apple Watch Ultra, $799. So if anybody wants to, buy a present for me for Christmas, I would suggest that might be a good one. Now, moving forward, we did have Bob Doms did present the link to the feedback form at 7:06, and he's going to pop it in there again. In fact, he just did. And I want to take a moment to show the mail, pages, text edit, Safari. Okay, I want to show what that feedback form looks like, and I'm hoping you can see that now. This is what the feedback form looks like. Not going to take you really long to fill that out. Please do so, because it does help us share the best presentations that you may want in the future. So with that being said, the link to the feedback form is in the chat twice. Please click on that and go fill out the form. Click on it now, and then after the meeting, go fill it out. But now would be a good time to click on it. So I'm going to turn it over to our final presenter for the evening, and that is Roger. Roger is going to talk about the importance of and how to test your backups. If I don't know how many people have said, "Oh, I don't really have anything that important on my computer. I don't really need a backup." And basically, my standard response is, "Well, you can take those pictures of your granddaughter's 5th birthday party the next time she turns 5." And that usually gets them to think, well, maybe I do need a backup. But a backup is only as good as it is. And it has been said that International Test Your Backup Day is every Friday the 13th, which happens once or twice a year. And Roger's going to show you how to test your backup. Roger, please take it away.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm calling this validating your backups. But before we talk about validating your backups, we need to talk about how to get that backup in the first place. I call this the rest of the story. And it looks like my computer is being a little slow. Are you seeing two screens there?
Half and half.
Yeah, me too.
Half blue, half white.
Okay, well, let's see what happens here if I, there we go. So the thing about backups is you need a strategy, and the classic strategy is called 3, 2, 1. And what that means is 3 different backups on 2 types of media. Now, when this was really originally conceived by a professional photographer, that was a long time ago when they thought that CDs and DVDs were a good media for backups, but we've learned since then that they don't last as long as we thought they did. And then 1 off-site. So the way I explain it these days is that your second type of media is your off-site backup. So you need to have backup software. So for local backups, you have Time Machine that's built in to your Mac operating system. So you already own that. And a nice thing about Time Machine is that you can get a free little app called Time Machine Editor and tell Time Machine to back up once a day instead of once an hour. Carbon Copy Cloner is another popular backup software, which costs $39. And Super Duper is a similar type of backup, which I believe is costing $29. And then we have something called a Cronus Cyber Protect Home Office. So as you can tell from the title, it does more than just backing up. It gives you some protection. And then the ChronoSync, which is a long time backup program. And then there's one that has been rated in several reviews fairly highly called Mac Backup Guru. Now you'll notice the ones with the asterisk here also have an option to do a cloud backup as well as a local backup. Speaking of cloud backup software, we have iCloud, which a lot of people don't really claim to be a true backup system. So don't put all your eggs in the iCloud basket. Backblaze, which seems to be the most popular in the Mac community. iDrive, which is another cloud service. Carbonite, Safe, and then one that you may not have heard of called MSP 360 Cloudberry Backup. With this one, you need to have an account with Amazon or another cloud service. So when you have a backup, you need to have a external device to send that backup to. And when you're buying that external device, you want to make it twice the size of your internal device. So if you have a 1 terabyte drive on your iMac, and then you want to buy a 2 terabyte backup device. So another thing that happens on Time Machine is when your backup device is full, it will automatically delete the oldest backup. So I actually was doing a backup here, and I got this message saying that my oldest remaining backup is from August 17th, 2019, and it automatically will delete the oldest backup to make room for the latest backup. So you have some choices in what type of media you buy to back up your computer. You can get a hard disk drive, often abbreviated as HDD or HD, and this is a mechanical drive, has a spinning platter and a arm with a read-write head on it that's moving back and forth, and they're both moving at very high speeds, and they wear out. So you must have some kind of external device for any of the backup software. The other choice we now have is solid state drives, also known as SSDs, and they use flash memory, so they do not have any moving parts. And then you have the offsite or cloud backup, which uses the companies that you're contracting with remote servers. So how long do you expect your backup to last on the external device? So the consensus is that a hard drive, mechanical hard drive, will last 3 to 5 years. So you need to understand that and keep track of that. Now, solid state drives, because they're relatively new, there's not a lot of information on how long they last, but a general rule is they're expected to last for 10 years. They don't last forever. They can only sustain a certain number of reads and writes. So they will get to full capacity after a while, but that period is up to 10 years. And of course, if you're using a cloud service, then that's the cloud provider's problem to keep their drives replaced, which of course they do. Excuse me. So how do you determine what the age of your backup device is? So one technique that I suggest is when you name it, because you need to reformat it for Time Machine, you name it with the date. So example, if I was going to do one last month, I would call it Time Machine August 2022. Then I have a constant reminder of how old that drive is. And when it starts getting into that 3 to 5 year period, then I'm going to start looking at replacing it. Another suggestion that Alex actually made today was to enter the hard drive in your contacts and then assign it with the birth date. So the day that you bought that new device, and then you will get a reminder every year on its birthday of how old it is. So I thought that was an excellent idea. So now we are actually finally to the point where we're going to look at restoring the files now that we know how to get those files in a place where they can be restored. So we're going to use Time Machine as the example. So on your Mac, you open a window for the item that you want to restore. So if it's in a document, it's in your documents folder, you would open your documents folder. So if you're missing an item that is on your desktop, you don't need to open a window, you just need to be on your desktop. So then you open Time Machine by clicking the Time Machine icon in the menu bar. If you don't see the Time Machine icon in the menu bar, you can add that in System Preferences by checking a box in the Time Machine pane. And then you choose Enter Time Machine. And then once you're inside Time Machine, you get the arrows that lets you go back and forth. And then on the right-hand side, you'll get a timeline that lets you go back into time. So what you would do is you would select one or more items that you want to restore. This could be a folder, or it could be even the entire disk, or just a file or two. And the restored items will return to their original location. So if it was in the documents folder, it will be returned to the documents folder. So I'm going to try to demonstrate this. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to go into Time Machine in the menu bar. And I'm going to click on Enter Time Machine. And I'm going to go back to, well, let's do this first. So let's, apparently it didn't share anyway. So let me do this. There we go. Okay, can you see that?
Just your handsome face, Roger.
Okay, so I'm seeing it here on my screen. And my other screen went black. So let's try this again. So I'm going to cancel out of Time Machine. So I'm doing this demonstration on a 2013 MacBook Pro. So obviously the solid state drive is 9 years old and it's still working. So that's an example. So we're going to try to share our screen again. But this time I'm going to show you. Okay, so I'm going to move a window here. So I'm going to share my Finder this time. There we go. And it looks like, okay, can you see the pictures folder?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Okay, so here is a file called valuable.jpg. So we're going to do a quick look to show you what that looks like. That's a melancholy.
Cute.
So now we're going to put that in the trash. So it's gone. And then we're going to empty the trash, which you probably won't be able to see. And so we're emptying the trash. Okay. So now we're going to stop sharing. And we're going to go into Time Machine. So I'm going to the menu bar, clicking on the Time Machine icon, which is a little circle with clock hands in the center. And I'm selecting to enter Time Machine. And let's see what happens here. Okay. So I have lost my Zoom screen. So I'm assuming you can't see the Time Machine, right?
No.
Okay. Well, if you could see it, what I would be doing is I would be choosing my pictures folder on the left-hand side while in Time Machine. And then I would use the arrows to go back in time. So
I'll
now
let you
that I'm
take a
looking,
full screenshot that you could paste into the chat.
yeah, we could do that. So
Then
let
people
me
could see
show you
what it looks
here
like.
that we get into the section here. Okay, so there's view scan, but there's no file called valuable JPEG. So let's see if we can do a screenshot of this. No, we can't. Let's try Shift Command 3. Okay, it's not letting me do a screenshot. Oh, yes, it did. Okay.
I have found that there are certain things within the Apple software operating system that seem to be verboten from screen sharing. And I wonder if it's a security feature.
Yeah, it could be. Well, I Shift Command 4 didn't work, but Shift Command 3 did work. So I do
Yeah,
have
that'll take a shot of the whole entire screen. That would be better than just a selected one.
right. That's what we got here. So let me see if I can get out of screen sharing. Okay, I'm out of screen sharing. And so let me go back into.
And what you're
sharing.
trying to demonstrate is just restoring a file that's in the documents or in the Finder somewhere, correct?
Right. So I'm trying to move this here into monitor and see my Zoom screen, which is being covered up. Okay, there we go. So we're going to try to share the Finder and see what happens here. And
If you
this,
could get screen sharing going again, you can just show us the screenshot that you took.
so here we go. So I am able to show my desktop, Bob.
Here it comes.
Okay,
There it is.
so here is what happens when you go into enter time machine. So as you can see here, the valuable JPEG is not here. So what I would do is simply hit this up arrow right here on the right and go back an hour or two, and then click on the file. The valuable JPEG would be there in this next window, which I can't show you. And then it would restore it back right to where it was here. So that's basically how you do a restore. So
What
that,
if you click the up arrow on that, Roger?
this is a screenshot.
What happens when you do click from the menu bar, the menu lit? Will it just not engage Time Machine?
Let's find out. The last time
Like
I
it just
tried
won't load it.
it,
Yeah, it just won't load it because you're screen sharing. It's probably a security block. Trying to protect your super secret identity.
okay. So anyway, that's the way that you would test your backup to make sure that it is actually backing up. Ridge.
Yes, I'd like to say something about a program called Drive DX. I have 6 hard drives connected to my Mac Studio, and it showed that Drive DX shows me all the data about that, every one of those drives, including power on time, temperatures, and all of the smart stuff as well. And it shows me that I have one Hitachi 1 terabyte hard drive that's been running for 12 years with no errors on it now. So Drive DX would be a way you could use to see the technical specs of the drives that you're thinking of using or maybe backing up.
Will it alert you ahead of time if there's going to be a failure?
Huh?
Will it alert you ahead of time in case there might be a failure or some kind of pattern that you could see to know when a drive is going to fail?
That I'm not sure, but it does show you the errors in the readout. It tells you if it's about ready to fail or what and why. And you can use that information and maybe take advantage of any warranty you have on the drive or taking it out of service before it actually does fail.
Melissa, to answer your question, you can have it where you launch it at boot and sitting in the background and have it check your drive intermittently every hour or every 30 minutes. SoftRaid sells, well, if you have SoftRaid, they have something called SoftRaid Monitor, which sits in the background all the time. And if you plug in an external drive that is failing, it'll let you know instantly. that
That's
drive
cool.
is failing.
Soft
That would
rate
be
is,
helpful.
soft rate is from Other World Computing.
Mhm.
Hey, Roger, Susan Clement has her hand up. Susan? Unmute yourself.
I'm wondering if you test one file, does that prove that you can restore any file?
Probably. I mean, you probably would be better off to test different ages of files instead of one, from yesterday's, choose one from a year ago or 2 years ago.
Like a spot check. What all is Time Machine good for? Like, it's mostly good for files, right? Like, for example, you wouldn't use Time Machine to restore a single photo that you had deleted, or would you?
Yeah, it used to be that you could use Time Machine to restore photos, but now
Mhm.
you can't. So
Right, I
you-
think that they've designed it differently.
Right.
Well, actually, if you know where the original file was stored, you could do it that way.
Right.
So,
So you do have it backed up, but not, you can't restore it through Time Machine. You have to restore it through one of your other backups. Of course, you have more.
You'd have to
Hopefully
probably restore
you-
the whole entire photo library.
no, you can actually go inside. If you right click on your photo library, there's an option to show contents. And then there should be a folder in there called original. You have to know the name of the file, locate the original.
I don't know that everybody would know that though.
Yeah, it gets complicated.
That would be that you'd really have to muck around and really dive deep into that. Go into the weeds, as they say.
One of
So, say for example, like what about like an email? If you deleted an email, a couple weeks ago, would you be able
Yes
to
and
restore
no.
an email?
Okay, with emails, contacts, calendars, you could restore them with Time Machine. The caveat is when you restore it, you cannot be connected to the internet.
Oh, interesting. I knew there was caveats. I've lost track of what those caveats are. I know that
and-
Time Machine isn't the be all end all for everything.
Right, like I can give you a prime example of that. Sue was working on her Gmail account on her iPad and she actually deleted a bunch of emails. So we figured we go into Time Machine, you pull back the email folder as soon as it syncs to Gmail. Guess what happened? It syncs to the folder, deletes those emails again.
Right.
So what I had to do, I had to disconnect the house from the internet by shutting down my modem, ran Time Machine, pulled back the mailbox, went into her mail program, which was not connected. Then I had to manually take out all the emails and put them into a folder. And then I had to connect it to the web, it synced to the server, and then I had to add those emails back in by dragging them back into the
Right, because if you had just done a restore, you'd overwrite your new stuff with the old stuff, right?
No, because email is IMAP. So as soon as you connect to the web,
Right.
it syncs to the server and erases all the old stuff again.
Yeah, you have to interrupt that connection.
Exactly. And same thing with contacts. With contacts and calendar, I don't know if you're aware that Apple has Time Machine built into iCloud for your contacts and calendars. And you access that at iCloud.com.
It's been a while since I've had to do it, but I know you had to go to iCloud.com to restore those kinds of things. And then for a while there, they had taken out reminders. You couldn't restore reminders.
I don't know what's still there now. Let me check.
Yeah, I don't know what they've done lately. The point that I'm trying to get at is though that, we always used to preach time machine for everything all the time. But I've learned over the years that it's not the be all end all for it's not always the right tool for the job, depending on what it is that you're trying to restore. There might be a better tool for that particular item. For example, email, contacts, calendars. But it's great for restoring files like Roger demonstrated.
And what I tell my clients is when they set up Time Machine, to set it up not to back up applications and system files. So only do your personal files. This way your time machine drive lasts longer
And it'll be
and,
faster.
and everything's faster, so.
And
all that.
speaking of time machine drives, when you're in the market, a good resource is Backblaze, which is our favorite offline or online backup service. They do a report 4 times a year on the reliability of the hard drives that they actually use to back up our data. So when I'm in the market for a new hard drive, I look at their list, see which ones are the most reliable, and those are the ones I buy. So it's not a great idea to have your backups depend on the cheapest hard drive you can find. If you want it to be closer to that 5-year period instead of that 3-year period, buy a more reliable drive.
One thing I wanted to point out is that over time, when I've set up time machines for various clients, typically what I'll do is when I name the hard drive, I rename it. I don't just leave it be, Western Digital, my drive, or whatever the default name is. I like to always name it with the year that it was put into service. So you can always tell, okay, well, this was put into service in 2015. It's probably time to replace it soon, based on the year and recommendations. So always name things with the year so that you know how old they are.
The year and the capacity.
Mm-hmm. That's helpful too.
There was a great suggestion by Alex, is you put your drives into contacts and then give them a birthday of the day you put them into service.
Oh, I like that.
And that way, every year, it'll show up as the birthday of Time Machine Drive 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of all these drives, now we're going to move to the point that we all are waiting for, and that is the door prize drawing. And just so it's random as possible, we're going to ask the S lady to pick a number. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We have a list of 23 people. Pick a number between 1 and 23. The number is 12. And the number 12 is Tommy Friedman. Tommy, are you still with us here? Evidently, he has taken off already. And we're going to pick a backup winner because this drive is something that the winner needs to pick up from Ridge in the eastern part of Tucson. So Tommy is winner number 1. And if he decides not to, then we are going to pick another backup winner. Pick a number between 1 and 23. And the backup winner is Melissa Davis.
Woohoo!
Melissa, could you use another external drive for something?
I'm sure I can. I have to find another Sesame Street monster name, but I'm sure I can figure it out.
Okay. So are there any more questions for any of our presenters? And I hope that everybody went and clicked on the link for the feedback form and have that up in Safari and fill that out either tonight or just leave it running on Safari and do it in the morning. But please consider doing that for us.
And one other little announcement, this meeting and the Ask Me Anything meeting will be uploaded to YouTube, and the link to the TMUG YouTube channel is in the chat.
Roger, this is Bob Eldred. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I had a quick question on your presentation. I was not clear. Can you use an SSD drive for Time Machine?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, you probably don't need to, because, once Time Machine does its initial backup, which will take several hours, it just does incremental backups, which don't take very long. And if you use the Time Machine editor, all that's happening when you're asleep, probably the way you should set it up. And so the speed is not as important when you do it that way. As far as reliability, then the chances are that a SSD would definitely last longer than a mechanical hard drive.
Prior
Okay.
to the Time Machine Editor app, is that a assigned developer, or are we gonna have to do anything funky to install that?
No, it's not assigned developer, so you do have to do the
Okay,
funky little thing.
And you can install it with Brew if you have that installed.
yeah, I saw that and it made me think, is there gonna be, I have to do this a little bit harder than normal. It doesn't come with like a nice and tidy package installer, does it?
No, because it's free.
Okay.
It's a drag and drop, I think.
The developer decided that he wouldn't pay the $99 a year to be an Apple developer.
Is it open source?
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's open source.
But it's something that we can trust. Then is it going to ask for full disk access? And is it safe to access it if it
Yeah,
asks
no,
for that?
I've been using it for many years and never had any problems. with it.
Okay.
And they've been around forever.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, in that case, I'd like to say thank you for attending and goodbye to everybody. And, on your way home tonight, from wherever your computer is to your bedroom, please drive safe and come back next month and see us again. And if you have any suggestions for geeky gifts, please send them off to me, hopefully with a link so I can find them and find a picture of them and so forth. And have a good month. And we'll see you next month.